We live, mama.
You have such an embarrassing smile on your face right now. Hey, everybody. That's Noah. He has done a live podcast before. I don't know if he was in England.
I was in England. It was actually this time last year.
Is it different? Is it different? Like
sitting here next to you always makes me feel special.
Oh, no. That's so sweet. I'm Ethan Sturm, managing editor for the ETH Man. We're here doing a live podcast that's going to go on and off between actually being useful and things you're probably going to shut off YouTube and not listen to us anymore. As always, well, not as always, back from the dead, a man who has watched more college D3 women's basketball in the past month than Quidditch. It's Noah Schwartz.
It's embarrassingly true. But
hey, everybody.
Embarrassingly true. But I'm probably going to pay attention to this podcast a lot less than I'm about to pay attention to this Wichita State Indiana game that's on TV.
I mean, I have Wichita State in my Elite Eight. This game is going to screw me over. But yeah, obviously March Madness is going on. But we wanted to get in on it. We wanted to talk some Quidditch. It's been a while. We've got some guests coming later. Kind of excited that. Talk about some other stuff. But first, I'm going to tie it all together: March Madness and Quidditch. I think when you look at it, if you look at the top 20 right now, the eighth man, which is outdated and needs to drop Florida's finest because they were embarrassing at South Regionals. There's kind of a fun little lineup between the top 16 seeds in the NCAA men's basketball tournament and the Quidditch top 20. And you didn't really believe me at first.
At first, I thought you were kind of full of shit. I'm sorry. We don't curse. That was my. Sorry,
Dallas.
I always get in trouble when we do live.
It's okay.
podcasts.
Dallas said she couldn't watch the beginning of the podcast, so we're not in too much trouble.
Okay, good. Except it's recorded, and she can go back and watch it anytime.
No,
okay.
She won't go back.
Okay,
so that's stupid.
So yeah, I didn't believe you at first because I was like, we do this all the time, and you've seen how bad comparisons we are. But yeah, you convinced me about halfway through. You convinced me.
All right.
And the obvious one, I think I'm just gonna start with this because I didn't make any of these comparisons. But the obvious one is obviously Kentucky is Lone Star.
Yes.
They're the most talented team. They have, quote, the most pro potential. I put that in as many air quotes as possible. For those of you listening, they're in as many air quotes as possible.
If there's a Major League Quidditch, it would involve a lot of those people. Hey, we have 11 viewers.
They would be a lot of the first probably. You have to think 10. Maybe the first 10 picks go there. Maybe not all 10, but
maybe I think some beaters would come from.
But like a majority, like maybe like 8 out of 10. This is off the top of my head. I'm not really thinking about it too hard, but I'd say like 8 out of 10. Also, viewers, ask us questions. Apparently, you can do this like neat little jobbly doo where you ask us questions.
Yeah. So here's my question: Kentucky I read 538's thing about it.
Right.
And Kentucky had a 41% chance of winning the NCAA tournament.
Right. People don't think that's very high. Let me tell you, that's extraordinarily high. To win 6 games in a row in a field of 68, you have a 41%, a little less than half.
So here's my question: is that a percentage that's higher or lower than Lone Star's odds of winning World Cup this year?
Lone Star's odds of winning World Cup. I think their odds are a little lower.
Okay.
I'd put them. I think the other teams play them too often. The other really good teams all come from their region, and they play each other too often for games to not be close. Right? You see, familiarity breeds close scores, especially in Quidditch, and their biggest competition has played them like 2 or 3 times already. So their odds are probably around 30 to 35%.
Okay, they did play no snitch range games at Southwest Regionals though, which was a statement.
Yeah.
The thing about the big Southwest teams right now is that they're just all getting beat up, and it's kind of a survival of the fittest, like it always seems to be.
And you have to like Lone Star's odds there.
Yeah, and there's just going to be so many competitive games at World Cup. It's really going to be who doesn't get injured, which is kind of a sad way to look at it. I really think we could adjust the World Cup format. We'll get to that. Okay, rest of the 1 seeds are the other 3 Southwest teams. So you've got. Who are the 1 seeds? Wisconsin, Duke, and
Villanova.
Right.
Everybody forgets them, but Villanova's a damn good team.
So Duke is clearly Texas.
Yeah.
People love to hate them. They're athletic. They've got a few stars.
They've got some stars. Yeah, no, it's definitely Texas. Even their role players, are blue chip talents. You know what I mean? They're really top athletes. Yeah.
So then you got Wisconsin and Nova as Texas State and Baylor.
I made the comparison that I think Nova is Baylor.
See, my initial was Wisconsin's Baylor and Nova is Texas State, but I think I like yours better.
Yeah, I was saying that Nova is, first of all, they have no blue chippers, really. They have no NBA prospects. but they're a team. They play incredible defense, and they can score enough. They don't score a lot, but they can score enough. And Wisconsin, I think, fits better as Texas State because you got your big men. You got some people that can. You got like Peebler, who's kind of that three baller. I like to think of beaters more as like your from range shooters. I think Wisconsin and Texas State makes more sense, and then Baylor with that great defense and that team attitude really is Nova.
Yep, I think that's fair. Though it's kind of hard. You got to put Jacob Bruner in there somewhere, and Jacob Bruner is a pro level player.
Right.
But I guess Villanova.
These are all in some serious air quotes, by the way.
So, and then we've got Texas State, Wisconsin. I think it makes sense. They've got a couple really strong players. Teams aren't sure what to make of them exactly. Like, they clearly deserve that top seed, but how are they going to show up on the big field? I feel like they don't get much respect, and Villanova definitely doesn't get much respect.
Right.
So I think those two line up. Also, it's going to get confusing at times when we talk about, like, a comparison of a school that also has a Quidditch team.
Yeah. We'll try and keep you as updated as possible.
Okay, so the 2 seeds.
So for us, as of right now, we're talking about Tufts. We're skipping Ohio State for now. The Gambits, Maryland, and Lost Boys.
Because this is how we think our comparisons line up.
Right. This is right. For the comparison's sake, we're skipping Ohio State.
So
we sincerely apologize.
So we're going to do our usual sandbagging of Tufts and make ourselves Gonzaga, the team that nobody.
Right. So Gonzaga is that like respected mid-major school that always lays an egg in the tournament. And Tufts is nobody, like you said, nobody really knows if they're for real or not.
No.
And I don't even know if they're for real or not. So it's one of those things where like the Zags, yeah, they could do well. They're a great upset pick. But at this point, like, how much of an upset are they really?
Yeah, I don't think anybody believes in the Zags, and I'm not sure anybody believes in Tufts. I'm not sure I believe in Tufts. We haven't played in a long time. So I think that makes sense. Yeah. Then we've got Arizona is clearly Maryland.
Oh,
it's just the athletic team that probably could be a one seed and can hang with anybody.
Right.
Yeah, that's a really easy one.
Right. Very easy. Then we have the Gambits. And the Gambits we had them as Kansas.
See, I don't know if I love that. The thing about Kansas, I don't respect Kansas at all.
The idea.
It got me only 15 viewers right now.
Whether you respect Lost Boys or not, or the Gambits or not, is I guess up to you. I think I like the comparison as Kansas. I think Kansas always has some really top talent. I think the Gambits clearly have that, but they always seem to be weak in a couple areas, and I think the Gambits are weak in definitely more than a couple areas. But that top talent carries them a long, long way.
Yeah.
I see it as a pretty apt comparison.
Okay, I'll let you have it. And then UVA, we have as the Lost Boys, a team dealing with injuries, a team built to really needs strong defensive play, and then just kind of tries to find ways to score when it can. More limited options there. I think that one fits pretty well. So then the 3 seeds for basketball, it was these 3 Big 12 teams, 2 of which are out of the tournament already.
Yeah.
And I like the Big 12 to the Midwest comparison.
Mm-hmm. It's a really good comparison.
So I'm not including Ohio State in this. We'll find a place to put Ohio State. But we also have Ball State, Bowling Green, and Kansas sitting in the top 20 or the top 16, as it were. And they're there because their resumes say they should be there. But nobody really knows what to make of the Midwest, just like nobody knew what to make of the Big 12. And there's definitely the potential for a big letdown come World Cup.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
So I think those work really nicely, which leaves Notre Dame as the other 3 seed, and you had a good Notre Dame.
I thought it was NYU. Notre Dame is a really undersized team with one stud. And obviously, NYU has Kyle Gian as kind of their stud and their coach and their playmaker in a lot of ways. But Notre Dame's a great shooting team. They're a great 3-point team. And so is NYU. NYU can really shoot the ball. And Notre Dame, despite being undersized, plays some pretty good defense. They are really well coached. If you watch them upset Duke in the ACC semifinals, which I did, they really handled the athletes of Duke, and kind of they allowed Duke to use their strength in Julia Okafor, but not be able. They didn't let Duke shoot the 3. They made them take a lot of step back twos. It was a really well put together scheme, and NYU fits in that really, really well.
So I think we might have somehow screwed up the broadcast. Let's try pressing this.
I'm confused. Uh-oh. What do we do?
I'm already in one. No, yeah, I guess we can.
Uh-oh.
So are we in?
Still live?
I think we might be live
people
now.
Are watching us, right?
Well, it's we had viewers, but now we need like Craig to tell us.
Somebody tell us what's going on.
We're too dumb to work live broadcasts.
If we have to do this all again, we'll be really.
We're not doing it all again. We have the podcast version of it either way.
Yeah. We are experiencing some technical difficulties.
So we're being us. Luckily, we can cut this out of the podcast version.
Yay, it's fine. Perfect. Clay Dockery said it was fine. Thanks, Clay.
Oh, so what? Stupid people. I blame Craig for screwing us up.
Are we still working, homies?
It's fine. It's fine.
Did everybody? Okay, I just have a question. Did everybody get our great comparisons? Actually, they're probably behind, aren't they?
I think we're on tape delay.
Are we on tape delay? I hope
like
we're on
a slight tape delay.
Okay, whatever.
But we're not editing. Regardless, just look. If you didn't hear our comparisons, they'll be in the podcast version. We basically been breaking down NCAA basketball teams and compared to the top 20 in Quidditch. And I'll just go through really fast once, and we're not going to say why we did them.
Yeah, that's fine. Go.
It was like Lone Star was Kentucky. We said that Lone Star has slightly worse odds to win than Kentucky did. Baylor was Villanova. Texas State was
Wisconsin.
UT was Duke. We were Gonzaga.
We haven't gone to Ohio State yet.
Right.
The Gambits were Kansas.
Yep.
Maryland was Arizona.
Lost Boys were UVA.
Yeah.
And you were explaining NYU?
And I just finished explaining NYU.
So they're Notre Dame.
Was Notre Dame.
Right.
And then you go ahead with the Midwest.
Right. So the three Midwest teams.
Not excluding Ohio State.
Right. So that's Bowling Green, Ball State, and Kansas were like the three Big 12 teams that were 3 seeds.
Baylor, Iowa State, and Oklahoma.
Came from a region/conference that nobody really knows much about. Had the resume to be there. The Big 12 teams obviously haven't shown up. We'll see whether these teams do. Wichita State pulled within 2. We probably care more about March Madness in this podcast right now, but we're doing our best. We love you, and we hope you guys are enjoying it. We're up to 17 viewers. We're going skyward right now. And if you don't want to listen now, the highlights of this will be packaged all together as a podcast.
Shout out to Nick Jablonski. You don't know you have work yet, but you do.
He did tell me to start warning him beforehand. And
this is your warning beforehand, Jablonski. You have work coming your way.
Oh, we lost a viewer. Okay, so then there's the 4 seeds. Maryland is super easy UNC. Maryland's
okay, so we told you it was going to get confusing.
So yeah,
Maryland,
the 4 seed in the NCAA men's tournament is UNC, the Quidditch team. If you look at their advanced stats, their defense is like they're not in the top 100 in D1 in defense.
According to Ken Palm.
Right, which is like advanced stats basketball.
The fact that we just dropped a Ken Palm reference in our Quidditch podcast makes me really
I was just trying to avoid saying Ken Palm because nobody's going to know what Ken Palm is.
I think people will know. I think I give the Quidditch community credit. Some of y'all will know. Ken Palm's great. You should check it out.
All right. So obviously you know why that's UNC.
They don't play defense, but they play enough offense.
Also, nobody believes in Maryland. I don't think anybody really believes in this UNC team too much. So we've got now we've got UNC, the men's basketball team.
Yes.
Who did we make them?
Interesting. Crap. I know we had it.
We did.
It was.
Oh, it was UTSA.
It was UTSA.
So UTSA is obviously second tier Southwest. Just like UNC has to deal with being in Virginia and Duke's conference right now in men's basketball. But they're still an athletic team. They still have a lot of good players. I'm excited to see UTSA at World Cup.
Yeah.
They're the kind of team that like gets no respect in the Southwest, but then shows up at World Cup and is better than most teams that go out there.
Yeah, but they also are upset candidates. Like people being a top 20 team gives them more of a target on the back than I think they deserve to have. We saw Harvard really give a game to UNC, the real basketball. Sorry, not the real team, the basketball UNC team. I see UTSA being this team that people are high on because I know I was high on UNC going into the tournament, still am. But I see them as being upset candidates for sure.
So apparently Craig just admitted that it was his fault that he wasn't getting it. So thanks for screwing us up for about 5 minutes there. We appreciate it.
Yeah. Okay.
We're almost done with this. We're going to go on to more relevant topics.
Yes, we are almost done, but we're not done yet because we actually thought like for 5 minutes about this, so we want to share it with you.
Louisville. We don't know enough about basketball to know what Louisville looks like this year.
I used to really follow Louisville.
I love Louisville.
My favorite Louisville teams were those Peyton Siva teams. The one that got upset by Morehead State was really fun. Peyton Siva is one of my favorite college basketball players ever because he was so quick and so talented and so erratic and made the worst decisions I've ever seen a point guard make in my entire life. I loved him. I loved every minute of him.
So we're really making this comparison to the Louisville teams we grew up with. Not
this comparison isn't necessarily the Louisville team of this year.
And I think
Louisville teams of the ones I remember when I used to watch Edgar Sosa and Peyton Siva. Those were the last 2 point guards I remember going up and down the floor at Big East championships.
Also, shout out to Kevin Ware. I don't know if you saw it, but he's the guy who.
Georgia State.
Yeah, and he was the one who had the terrible injury on national TV.
And R.J. Hunter. That backcourt for Georgia State's the real deal, apparently.
Yeah. So Louisville running up and down the court, being really high pressure. I think that's how Massacre plays. Max Havlin loves to just control the field, be everywhere on it.
And it's kind of interesting because I think pre this semester, those really good Louisville teams were QCB as well. And now they're losing players. They're losing their ability to kind of presses more. And it's really falling onto what would probably be considered like a small forward type player in Jake Archibald.
Tomorrow they play 2 games against Emerson, by the way. That's 2 big games for them.
Yeah, that is. Yeah,
they're going to show up. They're apparently being played at Tufts campus.
Oh, well, then I might show up.
You probably should. You're doing nothing, and I'm going to need
You're going to need me to ref on you. God damn it. Okay, so by the way, side note, tangent time.
So our podcast.
The way the World Cup works now is apparently the referees need to have ARs.
So basically, the way Clay Dockery has set it up, and shout out to him. Apparently, he's one of the people listening.
Yeah, so we're about to get in a lot of trouble.
What? Maybe you.
Go ahead.
Okay, so the plan is that every head ref is traveling with a assistant ref and a snitch ref from his own team. So anytime a game needs an assignment, all Clay has to do is find 2 head refs and their squad, so they're 2 other people, that are both free in that time slot and send them to that field. And one of them is the head ref, one of them assistant refs. You have your assistant refs, your snitch refs. Maybe you have to pull goal refs, but goal refs aren't the hardest thing to pull. And just like that, you have a full staff. I think it's a really good way to work it.
It is, and I have been nominated to be Ethan's assistant.
Oh, this is why. Okay.
Yeah, so I should probably go and get practice in so I don't screw over all y'all's games.
Yeah, because if we get a big game, you're just as much on the line as I am.
I know, for real, though. So, yeah, I'm his assistant ref for World Cup. So whoever has us will have we'll probably do podcasts about them.
No, it takes no shit, but he does. He's loud. You're a good AR.
I'm a good AR. I'm not intimidated.
I would not make him a head ref because I'm not sure he'd know what he's doing.
I know all the rules, Ethan. Calm down.
You just know how to lean on the edges.
Calm yourself. Yeah, I'm just a really lenient head ref when I head ref. So
you're a lenient player with the rules when you play.
Whatever.
Okay.
Anyway, back to this. So yeah, that was all I was talking about with ARing. Who do we have left? We have the 4 that we. Okay, so Ohio State. They would be, if we were doing it the way we did it, they would be a 2 seed, and we have by no means mean to deride them with the comparison.
Yeah, we're not saying that they're not a 2 seed.
I think their best comparison is actually the 4 seeded Georgetown Hoyas, and I really like Georgetown this year, and I think they have a really good shot to beat Utah and then go on and beat Duke. They have a lot of depth and a lot of depth at size positions. So you're talking about centers, power forwards. They really were able to beat up on Eastern Washington yet last night because they just had so many guys to throw down low. And I think that Jaleel Okafor for Duke is going to have a hard time dealing with all that size and the depth at size positions. Also, they've got some freshmen who can ball. Like those guys for the Hoyas were really balling out last night. They can shoot threes. They're really well-rounded. They look like a team that can make a deep run. Ohio State, I think, is built very similarly. They've got good players at depth, and people can really play there. So I see them as a Georgetown, kind of well-rounded Georgetown team that this one is. I think Georgetown did beat Duke earlier this year, actually. I'm not sure.
All right.
So, yeah, that was my comparison for Ohio State.
Okay, so I think that's our segment. I think we talked about that long enough. Couple things we got to get in. First of all, for people just joining in, welcome to the Secret Floor Live podcast, March Madness Live podcast. We're watching basketball. We have Chinese food on the way. We've got wings.
There is Chinese food on the way.
Oh, man, it's going to be great. We've got some guests coming in to talk on it, too, and we're going to take the best parts, put it all together.
Make it a podcast.
Yeah.
For those of you who don't know, by the way, in the background is, in fact...
Yeah, so Emily Hickmott just accused us of just having alcohol sitting in our picture. We're not that stupid.
It is an empty Jack Daniels bottle, and it is the one that is signed by all of the Team USAers. Go ahead, take a look at that. It's pretty cool.
From 2014 Global Games.
Yeah.
This thing is going to be a memorabilia piece someday. This is not just a bottle of alcohol. It's getting us in trouble.
It's signed by Hannah Debates at the end. There's some sort of message there if you want to pause the video and read it.
Well, it's backwards. Do you want to read it? Like they're getting the mirror image of it.
Let's see what it says. To my dear Noah Schwartz, with all the love, Hannah Debates. For those Tuffle Puffs, you know how much that means to me. Heart, Hannah. And then there was, it came... You know, Hannah,
who wrote that? Did she write that?
She wrote all of this.
Did Mitch Cavender write that?
I don't know who wrote. Okay, so somebody wrote this. This is contained within this brown paper bag is a bottle of Jack Daniels, empty by the way, which was signed and consumed by the victors of the 2014 Global Games. Team USA. Believe the hype. 7/19/14. So that is. There's also, I wanted to get the quaffle from Northeast Regionals, but it's at Tufts University at somebody's house.
Signed by a whole team.
Signed by the whole team.
I would have loved to put our Northeast Regional medals up there, but Hannah still
we
doesn't
don't have any Northeast Regional medals.
Because Hannah sucks.
Anyway, typically if we ever do a live show again, we'll try and get as much stuff so it looks like a real set as possible.
Yeah, we'll work on it. One other thing.
Those gloves are meaningless. They're just Ethan's gloves that he plays with.
They smell bad.
But we can like drape them maybe. Like, oh look at that. We don't want to know. No, we don't want to. We don't want to disrespect.
We don't want to tarnish the bottle.
We don't want to tarnish the bottle at all. Yeah, the bottle's incredible.
So our Commander-in-Chief, Amanda Dallas, is making me read our ad every once in a while, so I'm going to read it. This episode of The Secret Floor is brought to you by Savage, the ultimate apparel company. Savage is dedicated to offering quality apparel to Quidditch teams and players. For the now almost over 2015 season, Savage is offering a 10% discount on all team orders. Get your jerseys, shorts, hoodies, or fundraising t-shirts from Savage. Go to their website at www.savageultimate.com or call 1-8447-SAVAGE. And don't forget to ask how to save up to $1,000 off your next order. So we're going to get a little more on topic now in Quidditch. Noah, who has paid no attention, did actually read the article I wrote earlier this week, which I suggest our viewers read if they haven't.
Yeah, it's a good article.
I'm guessing the 17 people, though, watching our live podcast at 4 o'clock on a Friday probably read the
article. It sounds a little,
So the article was about World Cup format, or actually kind of season format.
It was a World Cup format that lent itself towards other things.
Right. So it was built around 40 teams. This is the Mitch Cavender method. My original article called it a analyst's wet dream. The editors took it out, but now I get to say it here.
Yeah.
Because it is.
Yeah. No, it's really cool. So basically, there's 20 auto bids. The way that you described it to me was the 4 most sizable regions would get 3.
Yeah.
And then the 4 least sizable regions would get 2.
And that'd be done just the way we split up bids now, which is like number of teams that sign up for your regionals. Make sure you one of the bigger ones.
Right. So basically, if you're in one of the small regions and you make the finals, you get an auto bid. You play the finals for essentially pride and trophies.
Right. One suggestion I considered was you're a pot 1 team if you win your region, because they're teams. But a couple of people gave me feedback that they didn't like that idea, so I didn't push it. Because
I actually think it's better if you don't do it that way, because it lends itself to more debate. Because I imagine that I would imagine that this selection committee, which we're going to get to, but this selection committee would seed the teams 1 through 40.
Yeah.
Just like we would seed the teams 1 through 68 in the March Madness.
Or do you automatically seed the auto bids 1 through 20, and all the at-larges have to be 21 through 40?
No, I wouldn't do it that way.
Okay, that's fine.
I would just see. So then you would have 20. That means you'd have 20 at-large bids essentially, and the way I would do it is every team once they make it would just get seeded 1 through 40. So like your Northwest champion is not a 7 seed. You know what I mean?
Right.
Or 8th seed.
I mean, yeah.
Your Northwest
that's a real
champion.
problem.
Northwest champion is probably the 40th team. Sorry, Northwest.
Whoa. They'd get 2 bids. So
They'd be 39 and 40.
Okay.
Sorry.
They might be better than the South second bid. College Charleston. I think Boise might be better than College Charleston.
I'd give College Charleston the benefit of the doubt. It would be. I guess who won? Boise State. So Boise State would be 39. Whoever lost to Boise State would be 40. Western Washington would be 40, and then College of Charleston would be 36. But that would just be me. Or not 36, would be 38. Yeah.
Good math, though.
Sorry, guys. I'm an international relations major.
Also, you got your Tuskegee on. I am specifically in brown and blue. This is because
we are repping Tufts, homie.
Because Tufts women's basketball is playing in the national semifinal.
Y'all should all watch that, by the way. Shout out to TUWBB.
Nobody's gonna watch it.
No, you should all watch it. You should all watch it. It's like we might even put it on for you if we can do that. Just have a break for the Final Four women's basketball D3. Yeah.
I mean, there's a chance the stream is going to be being stopped during that game.
It's true. We're sorry about that. It happens at 5. So yeah, no, the Tufts women's basketball team is going to the Final Four of their D3 women's bracket. It's great. They're doing awesome.
Yeah.
They just beat the national champion, the defending national champions, who are no longer the defending national champions, in the Elite 8 to get there.
No,
they lost to in the Final Four. I was at the game. They killed it.
So yeah, shout out to them. So back to the format. So 40 team could be done 60 team. There's 20 at-larges come from regionals. Sorry, there's 20 automatic bids that come from regionals, 20 at-larges.
That would be selected by a committee.
So that's the biggest contentious thing about this point.
Right.
Now, here's the thing. People are worried about bias in the committee.
There's always bias in the committee.
Sure. I also don't think that the general Quidditch community gives enough credit to the people who follow a lot of Quidditch for their ability to accurately follow Quidditch.
Yes, that's also
which
true.
I mean, I will say, obviously I'm biased in that opinion because I'm one of those people.
Well, as I guess I technically am too, but I'm not really. Not really. When you watch tape, you can see who's good and who's not good. And there's not really much bias. The bias, every committee is built to represent regional bias. So like your football selection committee is built so that people on the West Coast favor people on the West Coast because they see the games more. And it builds in regional bias, and it makes sure that every region is represented.
Right.
And the committee for this would be built very similarly.
And that's why I said 3 people from every region.
Yeah. Yes, that'd be a good idea.
Because I think you have what I said is, so there's a model in how D3 selects its tournaments. So you have running regional rankings the entire season.
Mm-hmm.
And those would be made by the people from that region. So the 3 selection committee people from that region.
Mm-hmm.
When it comes to selecting the tournament, you can't you can't put a team lower in a region's rankings in the tournament before you put one higher in that same region. So like let's say Hawaii is number 4 in the West and Anchorage University is number 5. This full selection committee can't put Anchorage in without putting Hawaii in.
Okay.
So it allows a region's own people who know the team's the best to have the first say on that region.
Yeah. And
then all the committee, the 24 people are doing together is deciding which regions are getting more bids, basically.
Right.
So the 10th best team in the Southwest could still be picked over the 3rd best team in the Northwest, but the 4th best team in the Northwest couldn't be picked over the 3rd best team.
Yes. I mean, it makes sense, and especially if you have people who are committed to this, it would work really, really well. And I think you put it in your article. I should actually probably pull it up now. Which teams would be firmly on the bubble, and which teams?
So that would be this year in the 40.
Yeah.
I thought it was kind of interesting.
It was actually I'm glad that you did it. It was really cool.
The bubble would be so exciting.
The bubble would be really fun.
That's the part that really makes it an NLS wet dream.
Loaded. So basically,
also shout out to Dallas for making this pretty graphic.
From the graphic that Mr. Sturm has on his article, the bubble would currently be UT, Blue Mountain Quidditch, the Warriors, UTSA, Arkansas, Emerson, AZQC, Villanova, Michigan, Michigan State, Miami, RPI, Rochester, Scroots, Black Tips, NAU, Arizona State. It goes on. Also, some of those teams I had as lost. RIT, UCLA, A&M, Clone Star, Loyola, Miami, University of British Columbia, BU, Hofstra, teams like that. Hofstra's interesting.
There's a lot
just
of
talking like Hofstra's is interesting. Like their resume, I couldn't go over it now, but their resume, they've lost to a lot of good teams. But they've lost to them like kind of like
they're like Texas this year was in this tournament. I think Texas was 3-12 against the RPI top 50 this season.
Yeah,
and I was like, do you reward a team for those 3 wins when they got 15 chances to get those 3 wins?
Yeah.
Rochester's interesting too because they get this brand new roster with all these RIT players.
Right.
So now they need to like go out to a tournament and actually show what their new roster is to the committee.
Right.
I think there's a lot of interesting situations like that. The thing is, for like the Northeast, the Midwest, and the Mid-Atlantic, all the regionals in November. First of all, a ton of teams' seasons are over already in November.
Yeah, it's a problem.
And second of all, the teams who did qualify for World Cup really don't have that much incentive to play this semester. The entire Northeast can attest to that.
Yeah, it's true. Especially if you qualified well, like Tufts, we qualified well.
Yep.
We beat a lot of good teams on. I haven't checked on our whatchamacallit. On the USQ rankings, I'm sure we're decent.
We're 10.
We're 10. Like, there's not much incentive for us to play right now.
Right now, we are like, if I'm understanding how they're doing,
There's still an
right,
80 team World Cup, right?
Yes.
So right now, we'd be playing the 70th team to qualify. Like,
even better. So like 9 and 10 are going to get split into the 2 flights,
right?
And 10 right now is Texas State.
Right. So
that's
like
good for us.
Right. I don't know. It's just like one of those things where there's not much incentive for us to play right now.
Okay, so anyway, but if you're on the bubble, you need to play as many games as possible right now. Like,
right.
You want to prove yourself. You want to play the other bubble teams. You want to have clear head-to-head, we beat this team a bunch of times.
Yeah.
Or we posted up these top 20 wins in the past month.
Yeah.
I think it could be really exciting. I understand that the committee is not perfect, but the computer system isn't perfect right now. The way the bids are getting split up right now isn't perfect.
Right.
Like, no system is perfect.
It'd be really interesting. Being on the committee would be a whole hell of a lot of fun. I'm sure the community would go crazy.
And Selection Monday Monday would be insane.
Selection Monday would be great. And you could do it. You could stagger it out just like they do in the tournament. You could, I don't know how you would do it. Would you keep it? Would you keep the tournament as Swiss, or would you?
No, I said if we went down to 40, you would just go back to the old.
Well, then you go back to the pools and you just pool it out. And
so like first you like list off the 8 like pot 1 teams in the pools they're in. So like that doesn't really tell anybody everything. They're like, oh, those teams were all locks anyway.
Right.
And then like you do the 2s, and those teams are probably all in anyway.
Maybe, but like UT for instance, UT maybe shows up as a 2 seed,
and
maybe,
suddenly someone's
and all of a sudden one less bid, right?
Yeah, and it starts dropping, and then you go to the 5s, and
with eight, UT would be a 1 seed.
Yes.
With eight first round, yeah, UT would be a 1 seed.
Yeah, the pot 1 teams would be like, I mean, you could just look at our rankings. It would be the
big
top, 4 in the Southwest.
Ohio State, top 8.
Ohio State, Maryland, Gambits, and Tufts would be the 8 pot 1 teams.
Yeah, probably.
So basically,
with Tufts being the worst.
It'd be the Southwest Big 4, and then the teams that won the other relevant regionals.
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah.
Be a pot 1 team. Ugh, I don't like that. I don't like that at all.
We were a pot 1 team at last year's World Cup.
No, we weren't.
Yes,
we were 2, weren't we?
No. Oh yeah, we were.
We were 2. The GGs were 1. We saw how well that went.
And LSU was our 3.
Because those computer rankings are so perfect with the GGs. The GGs were 4 that year, I think.
Yeah.
They were the 4th best team according to the
Do you want to transition? Because shout out to Ryan Sparks. He made me a nice list of the 80, like how it stacks up right now.
No, let's do it.
It's really interesting.
Whoever, yeah, perfect.
So shout out to Ryan.
Shout out to Ryan Sparks, homie. G Balla.
That might get it. We have Chinese food coming. I'm really excited. I'm getting dumplings.
You're not getting dumplings. You're picking at my dumplings.
I'm going to pick at those dumplings.
My Chinese food should be coming soon.
So the most interesting thing to me right now is Clone Star is 78th.
You know what also is really interesting is Harvard is 71.
Right, but we can't be matched up with Harvard. We can't play.
Oh, never mind. Okay, never mind. Sweet. Whoever gets Harvard at 71, that's going to be.
Right now we'd be getting OBU, and Texas State would be getting Harvard.
Ooh, OBU.
Yeah,
that's a good team.
I don't want to play the Southwest team.
Yeah, I don't want to play Southwest team on there.
There's some other interesting things going on down here. Rochester is at 55 right now, so they'd play 24 or 25.
They just had the massive influx, right?
Yeah. So Rochester, Michigan.
Michigan has not been impressive.
It could be a really interesting game.
RIT is at 32, and they just had the exodus.
So who's getting the lucky? So right now that is going to Capital Madness. Capital Madness could beat a broken down RIT.
It could beat a broken down RIT. Yeah. Which would be good for whoever they played next.
Right.
Because Capital Madness also isn't that great.
Right. Now this isn't the final rankings or anything. There's games being played this week.
Right. UNC is 6. Who's getting UNC at 6?
Nobody that's going to cause them a problem.
Right. UNC at 6. That's
now if Clone Star ended up with UNC, which is still on the cards.
On the right, yeah.
That could be interesting.
That could be good. UNC at 6 is very high.
Wait, how about 2 Northwest teams, 17 and 20?
Shoot. Yeah, they're in trouble, I think.
Well, let's see who they could be matching up.
60, South Carolina.
I think they're going to be fine there.
Yeah.
And then the other one would be like College Charleston or George Mason.
College Charleston could do it.
I think that's really interesting because College of Charleston, you get like the runner-up from the Northwest against the runner-up of the South in the first round.
Yeah,
like that's the kind of matchup you want to see.
That's kind of fun.
Yeah, I mean, and again, these aren't going to settle exactly like this, but these are just kind of the interesting things. And Boise State, the Northwest team that won regionals, is the lowest right now. They're all the way down at 34. But yeah,
stuff happens.
So who else is someone you don't want to play way at the bottom? A&M at 54, I wouldn't want to play them. I know they're down this year.
Right.
BU at 50.
UTSA at 49.
They are a ranked team in the England rankings right now.
Mizzou at 47, they play really good defense. There are some teams, like these computer rankings as of right now really will screw over some teams for sure. Like, but you don't want to play BU at 50. You don't want to play UTSA at 49. You don't want to play Mizzou at 47.
Arizona State at 48. They beat UCLA at Western Regionals.
Yeah, like it's rough. There's some rough teams down here.
Yeah, I don't know. And I want to be clear. I worked with this ranking system for years, and modifying it and working on it. It is a good ranking system. There are just not enough data points.
Yeah,
and it's a real problem.
It's because there's not enough cross-regional.
Right.
Yeah, play.
There's not enough play. The strength schedule.
I mean, we talk about it all the time, but like when you don't have, like you said, when you don't have enough data points, things get hard.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. I'm waiting on my Chinese food.
It's really depressing. Wichita State and Indiana are back from halftime. Things I care more about than talking. So, sorry, I got distracted by messages.
Anyway, interesting list. Thank you, Ryan Sparks.
Yeah.
It's not, like you said, it's not going to settle exactly like this because there's still games to be played.
But I really don't like the way it's settling.
But the way it's settling is going to be a bloodbath.
Yeah. So somebody asked, and I'm too lazy to find it right now. IQA Forums is messy. But somebody asked about kind of what we saw coming in down the line for Quidditch. So 5, 10, 25 years. And we talked about it a little before we started the podcast, and you were more negative about it than I was.
I'm more pessimistic about it. The sport is getting more athletic. It's not necessarily getting any more exposure. It's not necessarily getting any more. It's not necessarily getting any better. We've had the refs problem. We still haven't fixed it. We don't bring people who are not in the community into the game. So essentially, if you play Quidditch and you're in the community, then you're involved. But if you play Quidditch and are not in the community, or don't play Quidditch and are not in the community, or any sort of thing of that nature where you're not in the community but you're involved in Quidditch somehow, you end up not really being that active in general as far as like helping the sport grow. I don't think we have enough people here dedicated to helping the sport grow as like a organization, really. And the sport is getting better and more athletic and more thoughtful, but I don't necessarily think it's growing as an institution.
So I disagree on that for a number of reasons. I think one thing that is kind of like setting us in a weird place is the structure of our sport, where it's just college teams and NCOM teams, kind of, sort of. I think we need something more solidified. Like, we don't really have a league. Like, we can't track stats. We can't do any of that stuff. and it's nobody's really his fault. Noah's getting Snapchats from Emily.
Emily Higmont sent me a Snapchat of us doing our podcast.
I
I guess it's a broadcast, not even a podcast. Ooh, we're broadcasting right now. That's exciting.
It's awkward.
Anyway, you're saying
Chinese food.
I want my Chinese food too. Institutionally.
But yeah, so I think you're too down. Like you were talking about how I was saying Tufts gets a nice crop of players every year, and you're like, does a school like UT? And I think you were way wrong on that, and Cody didn't answer me, and now I need to find it.
Oh, well, on UT.
Yeah, he didn't. No, but UT has a huge rec program,
Yes.
like one of the biggest.
Yes.
And I feel like schools are quiet about the rec programs. Maybe you don't hear about it as much, but like I really think Quidditch has instilled itself in a lot of schools in a way that's not going away. Like there's that scare briefly when USC left and then UTSA's team got broken down by Lone Star, which we won't go into because people think I hate Lone Star and I don't. And it seemed like doom and gloom, and that was going to be the way things going. UTSA recovered its program and is now a top 20 team again. USC is gone, but USC always was kind of on the border of being gone.
There was a conversation we were having about this. We were trying to quantify essentially. We were essentially trying to quantify frattiness, and and what I think we meant by that is your typical.
Was I part of this conversation?
I don't know if you were or not. I was having it with Mitch Cavender, some other people, and he was saying that the reason the USC program kind of died was because the culture wasn't right on campus for a Quidditch team to thrive. Because a Quidditch team is inherently nerdy, whether you're an athletic nerd or you are interested in competition and don't really care. It takes a special kind of person to be able to say, I play Quidditch.
Do you think we're getting rid of that a little bit or no? Because I think a lot of even the most athletic stars of the sport like Harry Potter.
I don't think we're getting rid of that at all. And I think that's kind of part of the problem is that you can't be like essentially a quote normal person, right? And I don't mean this in a negative way at all. I mean it in like your typical like frat boy. I guess frat boys aren't normal. In like your typical I don't know. You can't be your typical like male college student or female college student and have Quidditch be a priority in your life and not get weird looks from your friends and things like that.
This is like Noah's super personal experience.
This isn't my super personal experience at all.
Okay.
Because my personal experience is nothing like this at all. I say I play Quidditch at Tufts all the time and people say cool. You know what I mean? Because our culture is good for that, and that's why people that's why we always end up getting a good crop of kids.
I mean, Emerson's in the same way.
Right. So this isn't my experience at all. My experience happens to be that I happen to be having some family issues right now, so I haven't been very involved.
Oh, I wasn't. That's not what I was getting at. I was talking about that you hide from your frat brothers. That's all I was getting at.
Oh well, no.
Sorry,
I get. They all know. Like there's no hiding it from them. They all know all of it.
Well, except that you do a podcast.
Some of them know that. That's on the DL real hard. That's on the DL real hard. But like, you can't like. You have to be able to say as like a male or female student to your friends, to people in general, oh, I'm on the Quidditch team, and have that be socially acceptable somehow. And we were trying to quantify that some way, and we use the word frattiness, but what we mean is like typical party college culture.
Okay.
Like Vanderbilt, Kentucky, Alabama. Why don't these places have Quidditch teams?
So you're talking about the Deep South.
But like USC, there's like quite a few UC schools that struggle with their Quidditch programs. I don't know, up into where is I don't know. I feel like Syracuse doesn't necessarily draw the best it could at such a big school because they are a very fratty school. Oh, by the way, shout out to Syracuse University. We're going through some tough basketball times right now, homies, but we're gonna pull through. You know what I mean? Like we were trying to quantify that, and that's kind of the point I'm driving at. Is that even if you're a big school, so like why do some big schools thrive and others don't? UT is in Austin, Texas. It's kind of a weird town.
Keep Austin weird.
Right? So like saying you play Quidditch isn't necessarily such a like detrimental thing socially, or such a detrimental thing to like, I don't know, your quality of life. I guess I'm explaining myself poorly, but you kind of get the point I'm driving at, right?
Yeah, no, I see what you're saying. But I don't know if that's why those schools don't have teams. And I think there are big schools that aren't like a Michigan.
Has a good. Well, again, Michigan's a place where frat culture is kind of very prevalent.
Right, and they have a solid team, or at least a solid. Ohio State's the same way.
Yeah.
So maybe there's a deep. First of all, I think we need to get off of Alavans.
Of what?
Of Alavan brooms. We need to just be running around on PVC.
Yeah, I'm not. I think brooms really. The way I describe the broom situation is that's always the big thing. Why are you running around with a broom between your legs? The way I always say is it's a crutch to the sport. It makes the sport harder and more interesting. You know what I mean?
Right.
It makes it like if you just had the dodgeball and the volleyball and we're running around like all the time, it'd be easy. You would tackle, it'd be more rugby-ish. But with the broom, right, what I think should be a PVC pipe, it gives it a crutch to make the game harder and more fun.
Yeah. By the way, the reason I'm off screen is because I'm trying to bribe my cat into the other room because our first guest is allergic. He's headed over soon.
My stupid Chinese food isn't here. When the Chinese food gets here, I'm just gonna like
say hi, Miko.
Miko is not happy.
No, Miko does not like being carried.
Miko is not happy at all. But maybe you can answer that question when you come back. Why is it that there seems to be a correlation? I would say in some cases, less so now, but I don't think we're trending in the direction as a sport that's going to allow those bigger schools to erode kind of that culture, I guess.
Okay. I guess how would you compare us to Ultimate? Because Ultimate is on a similar track of us, where originally nobody respected it. It was a bunch of people throwing a frisbee around. Eventually has become legitimate. It has major leagues now. It's on a lot of college campuses, but it's also kind of taken off.
I was going to say, is it that like legit? Like people aren't. You're not an athlete if you play Ultimate. You're not considered.
I'm sorry.
Oh no! I'm not.
Major League Ultimate players show up on the SportsCenter top 10. That is yes. All summer. I've seen it many times.
I've never seen one.
I've seen them many times.
I just like
I
guess you want to get to the point where you're considered a sport.
Yeah.
Oh, my Chinese food. 1 second. Ethan, take over.
Oh boy. Hello. So anyway, Ultimate has gotten there. I think it's taken the steps. Ultimate kind of has a different culture though, because there's definitely kind of a bro-ish culture around Ultimate, and I kind of wonder if Quidditch is getting there too. When you look at the top athletes in the sport, it's not your Harry Potter nerds anymore. Maybe it's people who liked Harry Potter at some point in their life, but most people in our generation did. Which kind of brings us to another issue with Quidditch going forward. Where does Harry Potter stand in the lives of the next generation of teenagers and young adults? Which is something I don't know. I don't know that many teenagers and young adults. Do they read the books? Is that still a thing? But because Harry Potter is a big thing that got a lot of people involved in the sport. And I think that now that there are more Harry Potter movies coming out, I think that could be really good for Quidditch. Because when the last couple of Harry Potter movies came out, Warner Brothers used our sport as part of their marketing campaign, which was good. Like there were like promo events and stuff like that, which is a good thing for our sport. It gets attention to our sport.
That's true.
So now if they make a Quidditch Through the Ages, is that the Quidditch book's name? Do you know?
Something like that.
If they make a Quidditch,
Magical Creatures is one too.
Right, so that's the one that's coming out first. So that doesn't have a Quidditch connection. But if they made a Quidditch Through the Ages, that could be great for our sport. That kind of thing.
Do you think it'd be great for our sport?
I think the longer Harry Potter is relevant in our teen culture, people still have at least have that connection.
Let's say people see Quidditch Through the Ages, and they depict Quidditch as something as like real life Quidditch as something that's not.
Oh, Quidditch Through the Ages is not going to involve real life Quidditch or Muggle Quidditch.
Well, I mean, like if they use it as a promo.
Okay. And they depicted something it's not. I agree.
They depicted something it was 4 years ago.
Sure.
As an unathletic game for nerds.
Right.
Like it has to be like first of all, there has to be like a good World Cup final that year.
Mm-hmm.
And it has to be something like that. You know what I mean?
What's your if you're making a marketing campaign to increase legitimacy in people's eyes of Quidditch, what do you do? I know it's a huge question.
The first thing you have to do is harp on the athleticism of the sport.
Okay.
And you have to harp on the multifaceted athleticism of it. Also, the fact that it's co-ed in many people's minds makes it less relevant. That's just a fact. The fact that it's not played by all dudes makes it. So I would also really push the really top female players.
Do you want a small plate?
A lot. I'm going to get forks.
Okay.
I would push the top female players as legitimate athletes who can stick it to the guys, which they can, a lot. I'd push that aspect as well. And I'd really start by marketing it to girls, because if you can get more girls involved, you get more guys involved. That's kind of how it works. No, seriously, that's how you get. That's how you get people. That's how you get people to a bar. That's how you get people to a concert. I'd push it to girls. I'd push it to guys for the athleticism and competition sense. But I'd really focus on getting as many athletic girls as I could.
I'm glad I can take this segment out of the podcast because then we don't need to get in trouble since only 14 people are listening to us right now.
How am I getting in trouble for that?
No, you mentioned gender. Someone will find a way.
I'm sorry. Like, I think we need more girls involved and more athletic girls involved.
Oh, I agree.
Yeah, I think if you do that, you inevitably will get guys because straight men like to go places where girls are. Sorry.
No, it's fair. So, what do you think about the concept of like, not even a pro league, but like a semi-pro league down the line?
How would you do it? I don't see it happening because all pro leagues, all things like that are driven by money. How are you going to make the money?
That's why I said semi-pro.
Semi-pro.
We're not paying the athletes.
But who's making money then? A pro league means that there's money being made. Who's making the money? How do you make the economics of it work?
I mean, sponsorship, like anything else, would be the thing.
But sponsorship works by getting people to games. How are you getting people to games?
Well, first of all, you stop having World Cups in South Carolina.
Yes.
Like when the World Cup was in New York City,
yes.
People came to the World Cup.
It has to be in marquee places.
It just has to be in big cities. Like,
wow.
It's not a huge ask.
Yeah, it really does.
And I was talking about this with Mitch Cavender actually earlier today. Like, we understand that these, like, South Carolina is giving good money in kind and stuff to get these bids, but doesn't USQ make a good amount of money off of ticket sales if they sell more tickets in a big city? I feel like that would be relevant.
Yeah, I mean, if you get 1,000 people, if you get 1,000 or 2,000 people at $50 a pop, that's good money.
Yeah, exactly. I think so. Yeah, that's what you do. You put it in big cities. You put it. I guess here I'm going to tangent again, because these are just things I'm talking about. Do you think we should change Quidditch in the college Quidditch season into a one-season sport like most sports seasons?
Why?
Because the spring season is really stupid and doesn't accomplish much.
On the East Coast. On the East Coast.
No, like even beyond that. You got change in like the composition of teams. One big thing, and this is something for you next year, like one of the benefits of having all sports in college be one semester is people can go abroad in the other semester and not miss their sport.
Well, yes, but I mean, kids are going to go abroad anyway. I'm going abroad in the fall.
If Quidditch was only a fall sport, would you not go abroad in the spring?
That's an interesting point. Maybe I would. It depends on what priorities I took most, but I think maybe I would go abroad in the spring if Quidditch was exclusively a fall sport.
Yeah. So you condense the schedule. People are playing almost every weekend in the fall, and that's fine because what you can schedule your harder semester in the spring, or you can do things like that, which is how all college sports work. Everything's condensed. Regionals would actually be a lead up to World Cup.
Yeah.
And there wouldn't be things like, oh, this team qualified with X players 5 months before World Cup and doesn't have that team anymore, a la RIT. Because then you can finally have like an off season. Then you could have something like a community team league.
Yeah. And
take all the players from all the best college teams.
And you could go into the community team league.
And no, that's not going to be a pro league right away. Nobody's going to be making money off of that. But would it be really high competitive Quidditch that would look really good?
It would be AAU Quidditch. Yes.
It would be like.
It'd be a travel league. It'd be a travel league for Quidditch.
Right. And it could be limited, and you could actually do things like have all the games taped and have stats of all the games. Mm-hmm. All just things that increase legitimacy of a sport in the public's eyes. And of course, you don't have to go down to once. These are two kind of separate thoughts, but I do think we should consider.
And you would push World Cup to the end of the fall.
Right. So yeah, You could have it in like first week of December in somewhere warm.
Yeah.
You have the 8 regionals across 2 weekends in early to mid-November.
Yeah.
And then you have World Cup in December.
2 or 3 weeks later.
Yeah.
Yeah, it would work really well. And then, like you said, you can move into a community team league where you have, maybe 3 or 4 community teams
Per region.
Per region, and you draft players. You all go to one showcase, and players get drafted or players don't get drafted. You know what I mean?
Right. So would each region have a showcase for its 4 teams? Because you can't have like the LA team drafting people who live on the East Coast. It just wouldn't be realistic.
That's what I mean.
Okay.
That's what I mean.
Yeah. Sure. Yeah, I could see that all working. I don't know. I'm not as pessimistic as you. I do see the risk. I do feel like we've stagnated a bit in our expansion.
Heavily stagnated. No doubt about it.
I think USQ might be to some degree to blame. Because at the same time, internationally, the expansion's huge right now. I think 11 different countries are sending teams to like the European Championship games that are coming up in the next week or 2.
Good. That's good.
That's a lot of countries. Because if you think about it, what that means is if we have, because obviously all those countries aren't prepared to travel across the world. But that means if next year's global games is in Europe, it could be a 16-team global games. Yeah. And sure, all those teams aren't going to be competing with Team USA, but
none of them will.
No.
None of them will.
But that's still a huge thing for the sport to bump up. We only had 7 at global games in the summer.
Yeah.
But of course, international expansion is not doing anything for the sport here.
No, and in order for a sport to expand and grow, ultimately, your standard bearer country, which in this case is the USA, has to be legitimate.
It's open.
And we have to continue to legitimize. So our first guest just arrived. We have Chinese food if you want some Chinese food.
We ate all the dumplings already, though.
Yeah.
We're also live right now.
Yeah, we're live. Come say hi. With
the
14 people.
It's gonna be a podcast too, but we've been live streaming. Hey guys, Jackson there.
What's up, dude? What's going on? Yeah. So are we gonna take a break, or are we just gonna roll with this live with Jackson right here?
What do you want to do, Jackson?
Oh, it's your show.
Yeah. All right. Let's. I think we take a 10-minute break.
Yeah.
And brief him a little bit, and then I can make my mushu and chow down and
watch
Watch it. Yeah. I feel like we're gonna take probably like a 10-minute break,
and we'll be back.
And we'll be back pretty soon. Yeah. All right.